You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. It costs you nothing to smash that like button. Leave us a review and follow District 2 Sports on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more content and coverage. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
It's the District 2 Sports Podcast, and tonight we head to Pearisburg, Virginia, home of the Giles High School Spartans. The Spartans have a proud football tradition built on grit, discipline, and community, and this year they've been re-energized under first-year head coach Sam Wright. In his debut season, Coach Wright has led the Giles to an impressive 6-2 record, keeping the Spartans in the thick of the playoff race. Coach, congratulations on a great start so far this year, and welcome to the show.
Thank y'all for having me, guys. It's a pleasure. Thank y'all.
Coach, I was looking at the standings earlier, and I know you played last week against Grayson and took a defeat. But, you know, Width is right there ahead of you next week. Is it good that you got this week off and, you know,
Yes.
maybe stable the troops and then come back? I mean, literally you just can wind up in a three-way tie.
Yes. Grayson, they understood the assignment. You know, we preached to our kids all week, this is going to be a rock fight, fist fight. And Grayson, they understood that assignment too. They were trying to knock us out and we was trying to knock them out. So we are very beat up. We're very bruised. Yes, we needed this week off. So, it's a blessing in disguise. I hated it to lose the game from Galax, but, we're looking at this as it's a great opportunity to get healthy. Share up a few things. We didn't play a clean ball game. We had four turnovers in that game, and that's something that we can work on this week. And we still have stuff to work on moving forward. So I'm glad. I'm kind of glad that it actually worked out the way it did.
Well, I'm kind of glad you mentioned a certain team right there because it was on my mind to talk to you about it just a hair. We've got some really good friends up in Galax, and we visit them periodically, and just tremendous friends, and they're kind of suffering this year. And in my opinion, and I've said this about other conferences, other districts or whatever, in my opinion, the Mountain Empire district is better when teams such as Galax are better. And I just do you have any comment to that at all?
Well, you don't want to see any team lose football. I mean, football is such a big part of high school, the high school experience, whether you play it or if you're just in the stands for it. Football is king in the United States. And, there's a reason that you hear all the songs about Friday Night Lights, and there's a reason you see the movies about Friday Night Lights. I can close my eyes and I can still smell the grass from the last time I ever stepped on a football field. It just hits different. Everybody talk, one thing I talked about, when we first started this preseason football, I was like, guys, the district that we're in, the Mountain Empire, it just, there's been a representative in the state championship game a lot of years coming out of the Mountain Empire, and it's a very tough league, and you never want to see somebody drop out of it. Like I said, football is just an amazing experience for high school kids. It teaches you so much about life, and I hate it for Galax. I know the head coach that got there this past year, Travis Reed. He went to Bland, he coached at Bland, which was my alma mater where I went to high school, and so I kind of knew him a little bit there. And I know what he wants to try to do. So I do hate it for him, and I hate it for them kids.
Well, I wanted to tell you, I watched the Friday night scoreboard on Channel 7, WDBJ, and I love watching the bit where they had you guys on there when you guys had the player of the week and all that stuff. You're a tremendous coach. I see you in action, and I'm not going to say a whole lot about their poll, but I'm going to say that it was a good segment anyway. But listen, I want to go back to August the 1st, and I picked this off of social media. And I'll read it, and it's kind of self-explanatory, but at the same time, I just wanted to find out if you might have been send it a message, or, was this out to clear anybody up of any of where you stood? But it says Giles will continue to run the single wing under first-year head coach Sam Wright, the promoted Spartans assistant confirmed. The identity of Giles football for decades will live on.
Mm-hmm.
So were you sending a message to anybody? Hey, don't worry. This is still in the fold, or some coaches want to come out and say, this is my team. This is the way we're going to do it. I just kind of seeing if do you believe in this system, and this system is what you're going to run?
Giles High School is single wing. I mean, there's no bones about it. And yeah, we teach it from, we brought up second and third grade football a couple years ago. They're running the single wing. Fourth and fifth graders running the single wing. Sixth and seventh graders running the single wing. Giles, we don't always necessarily have the biggest, strongest kids all the time. If you look at our linemen, we're undersized. We play to our advantage. We're on the hips blocking, we're running, we're trying to create angles, and the single wing's not broken. And you can still do so many more things out of the single wing. My longtime coach I've worked with ever since I got at Giles, Steve Wilson, he graduated from Giles. He played single wing. He helps us with offense. He's the offensive coordinator. And one thing I said, Steve, we need to. I want to keep the single wing, because he asked me. He's our AD as well. He's like, you want to take over the job, and we kind of talked back and forth. And I said, he said, I'll help you. I'll be glad to come up with you. And I said, well, if we do, he said, you want to run the single wing? I said, I don't know how to coach anything else right now, Steve. And he said, all right. He said, well, I'll help you. I said, well, if we're going to run it, open it up. And so he said, all right, we'll do it. And so he kind of implemented, some of the little spread concept in it, and you can still do a lot of stuff out of the single wing. You can still do a lot of different. I mean, and if you look at the modern days read option spread stuff, it's not that different from what we're trying to do. You're still got the backs in motion. You're still trying to read keys. The only thing we're doing different is we're lining up in it.
Coach, I want to ask, when you think about college football, you see Michigan with the winged helmets, you see, Notre Dame, you think of the gold lids and everything. When you think of Giles football, you immediately think of that red and sky blue. Us three were all huge fans of the uniforms y'all got down there, but can you just talk about, the pride of just being able to represent that program with such a rich history, rich tradition, the rocks with the state championship painted on and all that stuff. Just talk about what it's like to represent that program down there.
Well, one of the first things I can remember whenever I first got at, whenever Coach Williams was there, and my first 4 or 5 years, I think we lost 4 games. That was when we were making those big runs. One of the first things I remember, I grew up, I played football at Bland. We did win a district championship my senior year, but you don't win a lot of games at Bland. But whenever you first open up, we start walking up towards the football field, and it's real quiet, and all of a sudden you hear that train horn go off. I still get chills from it today. And whenever the boys are doing what they're supposed to, and you're playing in front of 8 to 10, 12,000 people, it's awesome. And you feel, and one thing that I felt, look at the names of Steve Ragsdale, Jeff Williams, that's a lot of football games won. That's a lot of state championships, and you feel it. And I joked to my wife. I said, I was the head track coach for years at Giles. Nobody cared. Nobody knew my name. There's a rumor that I'm going to be the head football coach, and now everybody knows me. And so you feel it. And but I also tell the boys all the time, you say, guys, this town, they love you guys. And those little league kids, you all are their rock stars. Whether you feel that or not, and now that we've won a couple games, there's a buzz. You can feel it. You can feel it in the halls of Giles High School. So it's pretty cool.
Coach, I want to ask you. I know you guys are single A, so there's a misconception in my book. I'm not going to say it amongst everyone, but I always hear the little things about, it's just single A football. You might as well be talking about 6 or 9-man football in Texas or something to that effect. And I totally disagree. I mean, in my book, if you're good, you're good. I don't care what level you're on. But I'm not even going to pretend like I know your numbers as far as people being out there. But my question is, I guess I'll get around to it here, is if you've got kids, I'm not even sure if you have a JV program. You said you did, I think. So if a kid is good enough, or if say he's a 9th grader and he's eligible for varsity, are you going to pull him and make him or pull him up so that he can get that experience on that level, or are you leaving him down there to kind of simmer and take the lumps and get ready for big boy football?
We have we've had a starter, that's 9th grade starter on the offensive line all season. Now this group of seniors that we had to play several of them whenever they were 9th graders. But we had a kind of a combination schedule this year. All of our 9th graders have practiced all year with the varsity, all of our 8th graders have practiced as a middle school program. But then we would also try to play as many games as we could, JV, 8-9 games. So I think we ended up playing 4 JV games, and I think maybe 3 or 4 just true middle school games. But single A football, when you might have to. Now, I don't like pulling freshmen up because even a physically able to do it freshman, mentally, and even if they're big, they're not strong enough for that wear and tear of a varsity schedule. But with our freshman this year, he's only playing one side of the ball. He's got seniors on both sides of him, but he's held his own. But you can also tell in a true fist fight game, he's taking some lumps, but he doesn't back down, and it takes a special mentality to play as a freshman, and it can be tough. And sometimes in the heat of the battle, they do freshman things, but you say, hey, keep with the program, keep with the process. I know it's hard right now, but it'll make you better. Just keep the fight up.
Coach, going back to the offense, in your 6 wins, I think you put up a minimum of 34 points a game. What have you found success in your first season running that offense? And then also, how much does Jalen Miller play into that success for y'all's team?
Jalen Miller is just the guy that's carrying the rock. It starts up front. That is Giles High School football. It's the line. Out of our 7 linemen, 6 of them are seniors. We have several in there that's 400-pound squatters. They've put the work in the weight room. They're not the biggest by any means. I think our biggest lineman is 220, 230. But they're strong and athletic. But all of our backs, Jalen, our fullback Antonio, he's 400-pound squatter. He's running. The offense runs through him. He's the guy leading the way. Jalen, he's kind of the vision guy. He's able to hit the little seams and go. Our wing back, we have several of the, Luke Humphreys, he's another 400-pound squatter, and he's a great lead blocker. And one of our wing backs broke his hand. Jacob Mills, he's a little speedster that can get on the outside as well. So it starts up front, guys. It really does. And Jalen Miller, he'll be the first one to tell you that as well.
Coach, looking at the region seedings right now, I think you guys are currently 3rd in 1C and with there at 2. And how do you approach this game next Friday? And not put too much pressure on the kids to say, hey, this affects not only the district standings, the championship, but also the region, and just kind of tack it as a regular season game?
It's what you want in the last game of the season. Put all the chips in. We haven't shied away from the fact, after the Grayson game, we said, guys, Grayson, we knew what they were. We knew what they were trying to do. We didn't play a clean ball game. So, we didn't leave ourselves any wiggle room there, but, we got another opportunity. We got a great opportunity against George Wythe, and guys, go out there and do it, play our football, be very physical up front, and say, you got to come to Giles, and they've won a lot of football games, and if you want good things to happen, you got to be able to beat good teams. And so that's what we're preaching all week. And I'm excited, and the boys, I think, are excited.
For you personally, I mean, you were at Giles for, I think you said there for 14, but I guess you were assistant for 13 years.
Yeah.
What lessons did you learn in those 13 years to kind of prepare you for this moment, being first year head coach and getting to this point where you're playing George Wythe for the district tournament or district championship and for region seeding?
To trust the process. It's you have to reset the standard every single day. I've been around, Coach Williams. He did a great job. He run a tight program. Steve, he learned that from Steve Ragsdale. My assistant coach, my assistant coaches, a lot of them were with Jeff, and I've coached with them for several years, and they've learned a lot from Steve Ragsdale and from Jeff Williams. And, let the coaches coach. Whenever I got told to be asked to be the head coach, I said, I've got to learn how to do it. And they said, we're with you. We'll help you in any way we can. And so that's what I've tried to do, is just make sure that let the coaches coach. My biggest thing, and one thing that I've tried to do this year is, and I told the boys this from day one, I said, guys, this is not my team. I'm just a facilitator. My team graduated in 2002. This is your team. And so I want them to take responsibility. I want them to take ownership of it. And so that's another thing I've tried to incorporate, and from things that I've learned in the past as well.
You took over for Jeff Williams, who said has been in the program for a long time. You guys finished, I think, 4-7 last year. Coming in as that first year coach, what were your expectations going into this year? And have you exceeded your expectations at the 6-2 mark?
Whenever I got hired, my expectations were to try to get to the program to something that the boys would be proud of. I wanted to reset the weightlifting standard. I wanted to get the Little League, more back involved, get the kids more involved with the Little League, with the lower levels. I wanted them to take ownership of it. That's what I'm proud of. Our boys they put in the work in the off season from we started lifting back in February. We'd come in at 7:00 in the morning, and they would lift for an hour through February, through the winter. Then whenever Jeff retired, they started coming in June. We hit the ground running 3 days a week in the summertime, 4 days a week in the summertime, in the heat running. And they have put in the work. And that's what I really wanted to see, is I wanted to see them take ownership of that program. And so I always said, I can't promise you that we'll win a single game, boys, but I'll give you everything I have. And so we had, in the back of my mind, I had a couple of goals. Number one, you always got to beat the crosstown rival. So we took care of that. I wanted to have a winning season, so we've taken care of that. And so, the next one, you don't think that far ahead because you don't know what you're going to do, but you still beat the rivals, you get a winning season, win district, get home field advantage, region, and then state. And so we're working up that little ladder. We're working up that little chain right there.
Coach, go back to August the 29th. You might not want to actually, but coming out and play Blacksburg.
Yes.
You lose 40-8. What's the message after that game? I mean, what kind of emotions do you see in your kids, and then what did you have to do to work that out?
Going into that game, we were excited. We'd played some decent football up point, in our scrimmage and in our benefit game. So we were excited. Then we come out and we get some mouth, there's a big build up. And I was disappointed. And message, going in, and we got beat up in the first half. At halftime, it was, you're either with us or you're not. We're all in. Okay. So either you're with us or you're not. And we stood up and we fought that second half. And then the next week, we really emphasized, guys, it's not going to be easy. I know we had excitement, but even in getting beat by Blacksburg, I looked at the coaches midway through the next. I said, I think we grew up a little bit Friday night because we didn't quit. We came out flat and we did not play well that first half, but we stood up after halftime and played a decent half of football. I know the score don't reflect it, but you're a 4A school going against a 1A school, and we stood up and fought them that second half. And we drove the ball down on them, and we scored. And then we go into Rafford, and we fumbled the ball right off the bat. They go right down the field and score, and you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, uh-oh, this ain't how it's supposed to go. And when the boys put their foot in the ground, stood up and fought, and ended up winning that football game, you could see that they came together and they gelled and they bought in. And I was very proud of that. And I did not like Blacksburg. It was a tough night, but it's a humbling experience. And anytime you're trying to do something, be peaks and valleys. And, we preached that all year as well. Things in life are not easy. You're going to have some ups, you're going to have some downs, and just trust the process and keep going.
Well, the second part of this question is this. I don't know how much you have say so over your scheduling and stuff. I know you got to play in your district games and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But for example, we talked to, and Gregory and Devin, you're going to have to help me here. I think it's Coach Deloach at Alta Vista. Am I close? Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, his thing was this. He's having a hard time finding teams to play him, and he just said, hey, if they don't want to play us, then we'll go outside our, of course, outside of our district games, and we'll play Lord Botetourt. We'll play, mm-hmm. Some of these 4 and 5A schools to get ready for the playoffs. He said, mm-hmm. I don't know, not necessarily saying that the regular season doesn't matter, but at the same time, to get his guys ready for the playoff run. Is that anything that you're thinking about for the future?
We've always had a very tough schedule. We've played some, a couple years ago, we ended up playing North Cross, and that was not a fun experience at all. I mean, they come in here, it looked like a small college getting off the bus, and most of them did end up going to college. But we've had trouble getting teams to schedule us as well. I've been in the room when the AD's been on the phone, and he's like, we'll play. And so we have had some problem scheduling, but we've always played a tougher schedule ever since I was there and before I was there. And, we're not going to back down. We're not going to back down from anybody. And, with Blacksburg, we've been playing them for 45 years or something like that. So that's a big tradition. Rafford's up, but Rafford and Giles, they've always been, gone head to head. This year we played Tazewell. So we've played some bigger schools.
Coach, looking at the schedule, I think you guys have only played 3 home games. I think the other 5 have been on the road. It seems like you guys have been road warriors. I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit. How important was winning that game at Radford, bouncing back after Blacksburg? It seems like you guys kind of rolled after that the next 5 games.
Well, they gave us confidence. The boys grew up, and Radford, Giles and Radford, they have a long, rich history, and so that is a big rival for Giles. It has been for years, and so anytime you can beat your rivals, it's always a good thing. And the kids took a lot of pride in that. Radford a couple years ago, they won the state championship, and so they take a lot of pride in their football as well. So anytime you can go to Radford and beat Radford, it's always a confidence booster.
We know about Jalen Miller, but who are some other kids who need to step up? Not only against George Wythe, but step up to make you guys go deep in the playoffs.
Jalen Antonio Wilcoxon, he's our fullback. We have 2 really good receivers on the outside with our left ends. Will Tickle, Brady Thwaites, they both take time there. But everything starts up front. We got some kids up there that they don't mind to put their hand in the ground and get after you. Tyler Stafford, Mason Bryant, Mason Myers, John Smith, all that whole group, the 2 Keffer brothers, they will get after your hind end, and that's what makes our job as coaches a lot easier. Is if they get down on the hip and they do what they're supposed to, it makes our job a lot easier. It makes our tailbacks and our fullbacks and wingback, it makes them a whole lot their job a lot better as well. But we just need to be us. That one thing about the Grayson game, we know what's there, and we know what George Wythe is going to bring, and we're not going to make any bones about it either. If we can beat you up front, we're going to have success. So that's what we have to do in order to win. We have to be able to beat you up front.
Coach, I don't want to get too corny here, but and I'm just going to be quite honest with everybody. I've never seen a game in Pearisburg at Giles High School. I'm ashamed to say it myself, especially with all the rich tradition behind you. But, I kind of picture it when I see it on, see the highlights on TV on Friday night. It's like Friday Night Lights, I guess it's Pearman High School up there in Texas. It's got that aura to me. So I'm going to ask you, what is it like in Pearisburg on Friday night for a Giles High School football game? And then the second part of the question is, how has the Giles following been with your transition from assistant to head coach?
Well, the answer to the first part of your question, if you've never been, you need to come up. This is your personal invite to come on up. Next Friday night will be a good time for you. But we have a big, beautiful mountain in the background, Angels Rest. The sun will slowly sink over behind it. You see right down the valley. I might be biased, but it's a great, just a beautiful, beautiful atmosphere. The Bermuda grass is beautiful. Hopefully in here a couple of weeks we'll have the big single wing painted in the middle. But so it's a great atmosphere, great time. We have the train horn that blares as soon as we start coming up, and every time we score, it's great. But the fan base, Giles fans, they love football, guys, and so they're hungry for a team to come out and play hard, and so that's one thing I keep telling boys: if you do what you're supposed to, it's kind of like that Kevin Costner movie, The Field. You build it, they'll come. That's what we have at Giles High School, and even in our down years, you still have fans there. The loyal fan, Terry Freeman and the train horn. I don't think he's missed a game in 30 years plus. 40 years. It's ridiculous how many games he's been to. And he's always there with the train horn, and whether the crowd, the opposing team likes it or not, he's there with that train horn. And he's going to let you know about it. So, but it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, Coach, I can attest
I'm
to
very humbled by the support.
I can attest to the beauty of the the school and the surroundings. I ran cross country or a meet there one time, and man, it is picturesque. Even as you're dying trying to run through those mountains and everything, it's a beautiful place to run. But I just want to ask, what is the for people who don't know, what is the significance of the red bandana there at Giles?
Well, that was back in the 1980 state championship runs. Our tailback Leon King, he always had a red bandana or a bandana under his helmet, and I believe it was the Narrows game, if I'm recalling correctly. One of the Narrows players, I mean that's our big rival. It still is today. Said, well, we're going to take that bandana from him or something like that. And the coach Steve Ragsdale said, well, he had a bandana. Said if he wants it, he'll have to come and get it off of me or something. And he wore a bandana on his belt that night. And ever since then, people brought bandanas and we'll wave them around. That team back then was known as like the Bandana Express, and so that's where all that comes from.
Coach, last one for me, and however much you want to share. The Giles Spartans beat the George Wythe Maroons next week. If they do what?
We got to win up front. We have to play clean, and we have to win the line of scrimmage, and that's every week. You have to play clean football and win the line of scrimmage. And if we can do that, I'll if we can play physically and play to our capabilities, the scoreboard will take care of itself. And if we play our football game and they beat us, I'll be the first one there to shake their hand. But it starts up front.
And you might as well take it a step further. Where's the best place to get a cheeseburger and French fries there in Pearisburg?
I'm a big fan of Papa's.
Okay.
I like Papa's, and I would go Buffalo.
Is that a Friday night steak?
Buffalo chicken pizza, or if you like subs, they got one called the Courthouse. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha. I'm writing all this down. I'm gonna have it ready.
Well, hey, come on up. Love to have you. But you got to wear red. You can't wear maroon. You got to be red.
I actually got two District 2 red shirts now, so I'm perfect. It's perfect.
Oh, awesome. Sounds good. All right. Or my wife will be on the track. She'll sell you a T-shirt.
Okay.
That's awesome. Well, any questions for Coach? Or we let him off here? Let him get back to studying for some George Wythe?
Yeah, I think we beat him up too bad,
Guys, I do appreciate it.
Coach, we do appreciate your time. I know you got a busy schedule there getting ready for next week, and we wish you guys all the luck there for next week. But Coach Sam Wright there for the Giles Spartans, thank you, Coach, for joining us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Coach.